Valley Talk on News Talk 1580 KGAL.
And this is Valley Talk, and a very good morning. I'm Dave Adams. We have another show for you today. We're going to be talking about issues financial. Northwest Investment Management. Rex Watkins is in the studio with us today. And Rex, briefly tell us what you do at Northwest Investment Management.
Well, we rent properties. That's our big thing. Property management that's what we do.
Okay, and John Gibson, our average investment guy, is in here. We're going to be talking about what's going on in the world of rental properties, and possibly have some discussion as well as about what, if we put Rex in charge here, what would happen with the tax code to favor, I know you laugh, it's a dangerous thing, but what should happen to favor or allow people who own rental properties to be able to earn more money and have it make their bottom line look a little bit better. We'll have that discussion here in a minute. We do want to remind you, as a program note, we're going to be live in Portland tomorrow. It's second Wednesday of the month. It's Vet Talk time, and Victor Coons is the guest host of the Valley Talk segment, which is called Vet Talk, on the second Wednesday of the month from 11 to noon. We're going to be broadcasting our show live from the Veterans Homeless Shelter in Portland, and talking about the issues affecting veterans. Hopefully be able to talk to a homeless veteran or two and just see on the ground level what's going on with homeless veterans, how we as a society can help, and how we can help the veterans, because goodness knows we appreciate what they've done to protect the cause of freedom, whether or not you agree with every confrontation, altercation, war we're involved in overseas. The fact that people, put their lives on the line to defend the cause of freedom is admirable, and we need to support our veterans. And so thanks to KGAL Radio for allowing 1 day a week or 1 day a month to be used for Vet Talk here on KGAL. So that's where we're going to be tomorrow, live from Portland at the Veterans Homeless Shelter, and finding out what's going on in the issues affecting homeless veterans. As always, we do invite you to sign up for Quiznos Taste on Us. It's a $10 gift certificate we give away at the end of the show. Simply send me an email, dave@kgal.com, or call the station at 451-KGAL, or just email me, dave@kgal.com. And at the end of the show, we'll pull the name out of the hat, and if you win the $10 gift certificate, good for anything in the store. Albany Quiznos only, right next to Novak's and right next to the G.I. Joe's Sporting Goods location. So that's what we have on the show for you today. If you would like to be a part of the conversation, you can email me, dave@kgal.com. We'll be checking emails during the show, so if you have a question of John or Rex about investment properties, then we'll include it in the conversation. So, Rex, thank you for being with us on Valley Talk.
Thank you for having me.
What is going on? Just kind of overview what's happening with rental properties now. Are owners upside down? We talked briefly before we went on the air that some property owners may be making less on their property than they're having to pay the bank, and so they're in the hole. Is that happening a lot?
It's not happening a lot in our inventory, but it does happen it happens for anybody that overpays for a property. First of all, it doesn't matter whether it's a booming market or a waning market, but you will end up with and a lot of times, in my experience, 25 years of managing property, people think they're going to make a lot of money on real estate. They go out, they buy a house, they're going to rent it. They ask a realtor who may have some idea what it's going to rent for, what it should rent for, and then they base their numbers on that. Or they saw an ad somewhere that said a house they thought was similar was renting for $1,200 a month, and what they bought actually in the market was only renting for $995. And they structure their loan and the tax payments and et cetera based on the $1,200, and then when they market it, they find out, well, whoops, we're not in the right place. And that happens all the time, whether it's a good market or bad. Recently, the last 4 years, we know folks who bought places in 07, 08 that paid market prices then, and those market prices weren't so much based on what the rental income was. They were based on, which is an unfortunate thing if you're buying rental property. It should always be bought with a pencil and not with your heart. with the expectation that the properties were going to appreciate or that the cash flow was going to improve because they figured that the rents would continue to climb.
But they didn't.
They didn't, and neither did the values. The values fell. So you'll have a property, if it was purchased at that time and paid market value, unless you did substantial improvements to it since then. And we have some like that in our inventory that were bought as fixer-uppers and have been improved, which now have more value. But when you include the cost and the improvements, that might be a wash. But a lot of folks that bought at that time, they have a property where their mortgage, they might have been able to do just 20% down. So the value of their mortgage is more than what the property is worth, and the monthly cost of the mortgage, taxes, and insurance is not including any maintenance work or other fees. Is more than what they're receiving in rents, and so
called negative cash flow.
Negative cash flow and upside down. Feed the alligator. That can be a frustrating position.
And a lot of that's based on human nature. I mean, back in the, you're talking about the housing bubble, and
Correct.
we look back and now we can easily see that it was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time, things were just booming. I remember back in the tech bubble when I was in stocks.
I remember that as well.
And I had a guy come over to do some repairs on my home, and we were both self-investors. And his theory was you have to be 100% margined, which is like you can borrow up to 70% of the value of your account and jump ahead, and buy stocks thinking that they're going to go up. Well, if the market goes down, your brokerage house goes, hey, you're more than 70% margined. We're going to sell random stock until you get back. And that's what people had done in the rental market was, remember, things were just, my home was going up in value incredibly. And it was like, I'm looking around going, this is the same house that was here 3 years ago. And I think people just got some people got a little ahead of themselves.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
So what do they do?
That's the question I was going to ask.
Well, and it's a great question, and it's going to depend on a couple of things. It's going to, if they're an average property owner, and those are people who they have real estate with the idea that this is going to be part of our retirement. Or then some of them bought it because they thought they were going to make some fast money on it, and now they're in the situation where they're not. But if they have other sources of income, and hopefully that they do, unless this is their full-time profession, they'd be best, I think, to just hang on until one of two things happen. Either the value comes up to the point where they can recoup their expenses, the money that they've put into it, hopefully what they've lost over the period of time, or the cash flow comes to the point where, because of improving rents, or they find a way to reduce their costs. Now, some folks that bought in 07, 08, if they have a Fannie Mae mortgage, they can be part of the HARP program. Mm-hmm. They could refinance and maybe cut their rate by a point or two, and it might be enough to change their cash flow position, which would then make the property make sense to hold on to it for an improving market or hold it to retirement. I know some folks have gone through that and they've bit the bullet and gone to a 15-year. The rates are really good even on 15 years, sometimes less than 30, and they've decided, okay, so that doesn't just require discipline. I have to make those payments, and I'm going to get it paid off so that when I'm 65 years old, I don't owe any more on it, and then that the cash flow that comes in off of it is my money. It's my income. Or if they're in a situation where they have money in the bank and they decide they don't want to be a landlord anymore, and there are people that are like that, they can sell the property at a loss, and just get out of it and just decide that. And you see people do that with stocks too. Mm-hmm. They decide, you know what, I just don't have the guts for that, so to speak, the constitution to watch my capital account go up and down, up and down, up and down, and I have absolutely no control over it. So that's why some people get into the real estate. Mm-hmm. It's tangible. They can go touch it. But like any other investment, you make your money when you buy. Mm-hmm. You don't really make your money when you sell.
One of the things we were talking about was, and in fact, you and I were talking about this the other day, is they're looking at fixing the tax rates or changing the tax rates. We should be careful how we throw the word around fixing.
Yeah, I would not call it a fix.
But changing the tax rates. And you were upset the other day that about looks like the tax rates on passive income, which would be rental property as well, stocks, so on and so forth, for the betterment of the position of rental property owners. What needs to happen in the tax code?
Well,
I know you're not a tax attorney.
I'm not a tax attorney or an expert.
Well, there's a brand new Obamacare tax on passive income of 3.8% on top of any other changes to the tax codes that's going to happen. That might be limited to people over $250,000, which would affect at least 2 out of the 3 people in this room would not be affected. I don't know about your clients.
I fall into that category below the line, but
so all 3 of
my clients don't.
All 3 of us are below that, but your clients may have incorporated as a business, and they're buying these properties. They may be over 250, so they are going to be they will be exposed to about a 4% tax on top of everything else. How do you think that is going to affect their cash flow being positive or negative? Is it that close of a margin?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is that close of a margin.
Okay.
For many. Especially after expenses, it's just you just don't have. We run into this perception quite a bit. Well, you have real estate, you must be rich. And what I like to point out to people on a piece of paper, okay, so this is what the property was purchased for. This is how much money we put into it. This is how much rent comes in every year, and this is how much money goes out every year to pay the expenses on the property. So at the end of the day, what I like to say is property rich, cash poor. There aren't too many of our clients, some who have owned properties for 20 or 30 years. Their properties are paid off. They're in a completely different situation, but they're going to be the ones most likely affected by any change in the passive income tax code. So, and their margins are much bigger because they don't have the expenses. It's income for them. They need it. That's what their retirement plan was. It's part of their monthly income they need to live. So yeah, it'll have a bit of a chilling effect. I think for some people who are real close in that margin, what'll happen, and it's unfortunate that it happens. As a property manager, we don't encourage this. In fact, we advise against it every single opportunity we get. But people will put off major maintenance items until they have more reserve built up. Roofing, exterior painting, siding replacement, interior paint, carpet, those happen a lot quicker than the outside stuff. But any of those major expenses, they'll try to squeeze more life out of it, and sometimes you end up in a what's the word I want? Depreciating returns on that. You have a situation where, well, we're going to patch the roof for 2 more years while we save up. Well, how much do we spend on the patches? And we probably spent as much on the patches as we did on this quote savings of going a couple years, especially with the increases. The roofing is a great example. The materials cost just continues to go through the roof. So you're talking about a petroleum-based product.
No pun intended.
Oh, yeah.
No pun intended. No, never mind. I was talking about roofing, and the price continues to go through the roof.
Oh, yeah, that was a good one.
Missed it.
That was a good one.
Said it and missed it.
Okay, so that's one of the biggest mistakes people make, though, is putting off maintenance items. I don't have the cash. Maybe next month will be a little bit better. And so what happens is the value of the rental property depreciates because it's falling apart essentially in some cases. The roofs, the siding, the concrete, whatever. And before long, you've got some major repairs that have to be done. And so the property, even in the depreciating market, which is what we have now, the property is even taking another hit just because they haven't kept it up. Is that a big problem?
It is. The property loses value faster. There's another aspect of that, and that's street appeal. Or even an interior inspection. When you have an empty unit and a prospective tenant drives by to see if they're interested, and they notice that the roof's got a couple of patches on it. They notice that maybe the concrete in the driveway is not just cracked but heaved. They notice that there's peeling paint on the outside. They drive on. In order to make it competitive, you end up either lowering the rent or not raising it to keep up with the market. And so you have a situation there where you're doing a lot of things that are going to affect the long-term viability of the property. The other side of that, though, is that we have clients that say, okay, so I spend $10,000 on the inside for new carpet, new countertops because they haven't been replaced since 1970, new vinyl, and maybe we upgrade the windows. I don't know if we can get all that done for 10 grand, but maybe close. And so how much more am I going to get a month for rent?
Mm-hmm. And how are the renters going to take care of it? Which would like to segue into why you're so valuable.
Oh, that's a good point.
All right, because I've been a guy that's just bungled through life, and I've hit home runs for some reason. I don't know why, but I've been very, very, very lucky. But there came a point in my life where I had an opportunity to move to Denver. And I have a wonderful home out on Hidden Valley Road in Lebanon, and I didn't want to sell it. Mm-hmm. I want to retire there and not die, but, retire and live. And I didn't know what to do. So I called up a property manager person, not you, but a property manager person in Lebanon. And it was so comforting to know that I had somebody here watching my property, even though I rented it out to the most wonderful couple, Warren and Barbara Beeson. This is a small community. Everybody knows Warren. And the house was well maintained. But just having my property manager here, we put in a yard, we put in a filter system on the pump because it smelled like sulfur, and I put up with it, but the renters didn't. All sorts of repairs. And it was nice having you being my eyes and ears while I'm in Denver. So how far away are some of your clients, and do you get a lot of people that don't live here hiring you as opposed to people who do live here?
Yes, we have clients that both husband and wife were active duty Marines, and one of them, they live in California now. One was in California for quite some time. The other one was in Iraq. Mm-hmm. We have a client that's a civilian employee for the Army, and he's working in Germany, has his family there. He used to live here, but job came up in 2003, and he decided it was a great job and moved the family away, and we take care of it. We have a lot of clients that live in the Portland area, New Jersey, all over the country. Mm-hmm. But then again, we also have clients that live right here.
Mm-hmm. So what are the benefits? Let's just take that from a ground floor level. What are pardon the other pun, but what are the...
I got that one.
We're just full of them today. What are the advantages of a real estate management company like yours?
Why would I going to say something about going down the drain? And
okay.
That'll be the end of the show.
Yeah. There you go.
So there's a lot of advantages, and the costs come at different levels depending on which company you hire. But probably the biggest advantage to a client is not just the eyes and ears here and the regular inspections that happen and relationships with the contractors and vendors that may do the work on the property. We're required as a licensed property manager to do 30 hours of continuing education every 2 years. And there are always changes to Oregon landlord-tenant law, and there always seems to be changes and updates to fair housing. Mm-hmm. And you can get yourself into a lot of trouble really fast. Two ways on that. One is that you think you know what the rule is, but that was the rule 15 years ago, and that's not the rule anymore. And the other is just complete and total ignorance, or we have people who we've talked to as potential clients and decided that we weren't going to manage the property for them because they said, well, we want you to do this, this, and this. And, well, we can't do that because of federal fair housing law. Oh, I don't care. It's my property. You're going to do it this way. And
but you're in a rock and a hard place.
We don't take the client.
Okay.
We had one here in Albany many years ago, 2002, I think it was, and signed the agreement. Everything was fine. Then the guy, he sent a letter 4 days later that he was not going to supply us with certain information. We require their Social Security or tax ID number because federal law requires us to supply a 1099. Can't do it without it. He refused to give the information, and he instructed us to deposit tenant money directly into his bank account rather than through our trust account, which is a violation of administrative rules for licensees. I said, we can't do it that way. We have to stay in compliance with the law. And he said, well, if you want to manage the property, you'll do it my way. And I said, well, then we're going to send you a registered letter terminating the management agreement. 7 days, shortest management agreement I ever had. But we can't work with a client in that situation. the fines would put us out of business if we did, and the impact on our reputation as a business would put us out over the long term anyway. So the advantage to a property owner, and a great story, we had one up in Hood River when I used to work up there, had the company up there from 89 through 2000, and guy had 10 houses, and he was an older gentleman. He'd been handling them forever, and the tenant ended up, and he thought the tenant was his friend. He forgot that it's a business transaction. The tenant ended up suing him for a habitability claim that he says he didn't know existed. So they went to court, and they ended up having a jury, and in a small town like Hood River, 4,500 people, you know all the people in the jury. Well, he lost, and his loss was attorney fees plus $10,000 settlement to the tenants.
Ouch.
And in Oregon, if you tell them they have to move after that, that's wrongful eviction. So 12 months they got to live in the house, and he couldn't do anything about it. At that point, he decided, you know what? I'm in over my head. I'm hiring a pro. And turned out, great client. Would have lunch at his house every month, and just ended up being a real good friend. And so, yeah, you end up in those situations. I think probably the biggest advantage for a property owner is to say, look, I have a regular job. I don't have time to keep up on all the changes. And we have changes in the last couple of years. Carbon monoxide detectors required inside premises. Smoke detectors, not just 10-year battery now, but they have to be replaced, the whole machine, every 10 years. It's constant changes, and if you're not up with it, you're going to find yourself out of compliance. And then if a tenant decides they want to be fussy about something, you're going to find yourself in the courtroom, and that can get really expensive.
Let's talk about some of those changes. We'll do that in Valley Talk here in just a moment. We're going to take a break right now. Don't forget to sign up for Quiznos Taste on Us. At the end of the show, we're going to draw your name out of the hat. So in the meantime, send me an email, dave@kgal.com. Put Quiznos Taste on Us on the subject line, and we'll see. Maybe we can pull your name out of the hat and give you a $10 gift certificate from Quiznos in Albany. I'm Dave Adams with Rex Watkins of Northwest Investment Management, and of course our average investment guy, John Gibson, here in the studio. Valley Talk will continue in a moment.
'Tis the season and time for planning holiday parties and memorable company celebrations. Be sure to include Mama's Fine Italian in your plans. Have the party at Mama's in Lebanon or book them to cater your event. Either way, it will be superb, and your guests will love it. Need a special bottle of wine for dinner tonight or for a party hostess gift? No better place or price than Mama's incomparable wine shop. Closed Sunday and Monday, so make the most of the other 5 days and join your friends at Mama's. Like them on Facebook or contact them through their website, mamasfineitalian.com. Call for reservations or to plan your holiday party. 541-451-5050. That's 451-5050. Mama's Fine Italian and Wine Shop on West Oak between Main and 2nd in Lebanon, across from the Big Blue Napa Auto Parts building.
Let's take a quick quiz. Do you have faucets that seem to always drip or won't turn off completely? Do you never seem to have enough hot water? Do your drains run slower? Do you have low water pressure? If you answered yes to any of these, then you may have leaks in your home water system. The longer you let those leaks go, the more expensive the repairs could be. Now's the time to call Servco Incorporated, your licensed, bonded, certified plumbing professionals. They'll get the job done right. Servco Incorporated at 1200 East Grant Street in Lebanon. Now open Saturdays. Call 541-451-5090 or go online, servcoinc.net.
Banking these days can be pretty impersonal. You've got your big banks, your internet banks, your do-it-yourself banks, and your too-big-to-fail banks. That's why you might be interested in an alternative. Willamette Community Bank. You deserve better service without sacrificing a thing. So if you're feeling underserved, make the switch to the best banking option out there. With branches in Albany and Lebanon, Willamette Community Bank. Service like no other, we promise. Member FDIC.
Shazam! 50 guitar bustin' instrumentals available now at musicrewind.com. 50 amazing guitar instrumentals on 2 compact discs. The Ventures, Dwayne Eddy, The Shadows, Link Ray, The Drifters, Santo and Johnny, Chuck Berry, and many more perform 50 classic songs. Order Shazam 50 guitar bustin' instrumentals today for only $15.98 plus shipping at musicrewind.com or call 800-206-5002. Enter or mention coupon code Shazam22 and receive reduced shipping on your order. That's musicrewind.com or 800-206-5002.
Laugh, cry, or get scared spitless with When Radio Was. Weeknights at 10 on 1580 KGAL.
This is Valley Talk, and thank you. Welcome to the show once again. We have Rex Watkins in the studio, Northwest Investment Management, and John Gibson, our average investment guy. John, glad to have you here. We have you here every Tuesday. We'll talk about what's going on in D.C. and the stock market in just a moment. Right now, we're giving words of advice to rental property owners. And one of the things that we've been talking about in the break is that in, a decade or so, a lot of rules have been changed in the Oregon state level. You mentioned something here just a minute ago that I did not know had been changed. I was under the impression you had to change the battery in the smoke detector every 10 years, but you just a moment ago you said that you have to change the entire smoke detector, and there's also a provision that if the home has any kind of combustible ignition source like natural gas heat, so on and so forth, fireplace, fire insert, you have to have carbon monoxide detector and possibly more than one.
Correct. Yes. The smoke detector change came a couple years ago, three years ago, I believe, when we had to be in compliance with it, and it was last year on the smoke detector, and they did make a rule many years ago, 10, 15 years ago, that smoke detectors had to have a long life 10-year lithium battery in them. And so back then we went through every unit and we had boxes of batteries and we put in the
10-year
batteries, and then the state fire marshal found, and this is actually going clear across the nation, that the machine itself loses its effectiveness. It's not reliable after 10 years. And so now we cannot rent a house or an apartment that has a smoke detector that is more than 10 years old. So as we're going through our units, we find any of them that are at the 8-year mark, we're just replacing them at this point. And putting in new machines. And they need to be on each level of the house. And then the carbon monoxide, combustible heating sources, if you've got a attached garage, and this one came as a result of, somebody died, essentially, and there wasn't a carbon monoxide detector in the house. Something was left running in a garage, I believe it was, and the garage door was closed, and it wasn't an intentional suicide, but they died as a result of it. And you can end up with a bad burn on a natural gas furnace, or if it's a water heater that's inside, you get a bad burn, you can have high levels of carbon monoxide, and they call it the silent gas. You don't even know it. You can't smell it either. It's not like natural gas where you have a natural gas leak and you can smell the odor. So we're required to have the CO detectors in, and they have to be within 10 feet of any or all bedroom doors. Depending on the way the house is laid out, some single-level homes have a master bedroom at one end of the house and auxiliary bedrooms at the other. A lot of manufactured homes are built that way. That's going to require two carbon monoxide detectors. Or bedrooms on different levels. Here again, 2 carbon monoxide detectors. So
you could have a home conceivably could have 5 different detectors, be it smoke alarms and carbon monoxide detectors.
Yeah, in different locations, absolutely. Yeah. Yes, and that's not a newer home with hardwired detectors anyway. Is going to have one in every bedroom. That's been code for quite a while. Mm-hmm. Older homes don't have to meet that, but if we're doing a remodel, we try to see if we can upgrade that. So they've got one on each floor and one in each bedroom already. So we've had houses that are close to the 10-year mark or a little past, and we've had to go in and replace all the hardwired smoke detectors. Well, that's 5 detectors right there, easy. If it's a 2-story house with 3 bedrooms, and then you got the CO detectors that you got to put in.
And I know that when I rented my home out, I wasn't trying to make a profit. I mean, it wasn't a business. I wanted to keep the home for my retirement. But I was squeaking out maybe $2,000 a year upside. You know, so I'd get a letter from my property manager going, "Oh, new regulations for this," you know, and that ate into that $2,000 cushion or profit that I was getting. And that's, people don't realize. They all think, "Oh, this great regulation, you know, we're going to make," but you're killing the opportunity for the person initially to go into the business to provide the rental house.
It does increase the cost.
You know, it's
I can see value in the safety issues. If we have a maintenance schedule, health and safety always come first.
And it's because of the few bad apples, you know.
Yes, I think all of our laws are.
All of our laws are based on that, you know. It's just dumbing it down to everybody else. That's what it seems like to me.
What is the biggest mistake that rental property owners make? We've covered a lot of them right now, but if you were on the radio and you have a chance to talk to 10,000 property owners that own rental property, and you say, "Folks, if there's one thing we could tell you, it's this." What would it be?
It's the willful. What's the word I want to use? They don't want to follow federal fair housing law for personal reasons, and the willful turning away of prospective clients because of the biggest ones are children, or familial status, and
they're not married. Let's say.
Yeah. Okay. So 2 people come. They want to rent a 1-bedroom apartment. You own a small apartment complex, 4 units. They're all 1 bedrooms, and this couple comes to you, and they don't necessarily have to be young, but they come to you and you ask them questions like, "Are they married?"
And they say, "No, we're just living together."
It doesn't matter.
And so
you can't discriminate based on that.
Okay, so let's say
what church do you attend?
That's absolutely no. That's people. A lot of folks don't get into that anymore. But I know 20 years ago, almost 30 years ago, when I got into the business, that was a big deal, whether or not they were a religious couple or anything like that. We in the local area, we don't have so much an issue with color that they do in some of the large cities.
Sure.
But they're around campus, there are some private landowners that won't rent to kids from certain countries.
Could they get in trouble for that? Yes.
They could if somebody wanted to file a complaint, and all they have to do is go to Housing and Urban Development and say, "I feel like I've been discriminated against because of skin color or marital status or because I have children." And because I have children is probably the biggest. A lot of folks believe, and sometimes it's the case, not every time, but the kids can cause a lot of damage. And yes, sometimes they do think that the walls are their canvas for their artistic talents. Sometimes there's holes in the walls, and you can't change the deposit. Well, you have kids, so I'm going to charge a double deposit. That's considered discrimination as well. So
overseas,
those are really the biggest issues.
Overseas in New Zealand, I knew a person that had property, and over there it's customary to go on holiday, they call it, and rent your home out to somebody from overseas, and you go to the beach for a month and rent it to them. And I'm not going to say the country that the group of young men that came in, but they trashed the house. And so it's very, you wouldn't blame the homeowner and say, "Well, I'm not going to rent to people from XYZ country again because look at this, it's a mess." So the property owner's going to say, "Hey, come on, give me a break here."
Well, we've noticed that the ability to cause damages or not pay your rent or leave a place trashed crosses all boundaries. Rich, poor, single, married, kids, no kids, pets. It doesn't matter. Sometimes we go into a place and when they give us notice they're going to vacate, we send them a confirmation if there's a prorate for the next month because they gave the notice in the middle of the month, what that's going to be, and include our cleaning and move-out checklist. And some of them you go in and it's immaculate. It's just like when they found it, literally just like when they found it. the ones that really get you are the ones that leave a note. Well, I made a lot of improvements. We hope you appreciate it, and we'd like our deposit back. And the place is trashed. Their improvements were hung on the wall with railroad spikes, or at a minimum 16 penny nails, or huge mollies that they pulled out and left 1-inch diameter holes in the wall. On and on and on. Or they decided to put in their own light fixtures. They weren't put in correctly, or the right ones for the house. And
you have to be because there was so many violations earlier, now you can't get them out. We had renters move in on Hidden Valley, and the lady, she was not the smartest woman in the world, rented it out to these people. There were nights that we had 20, maybe 25 those big mud trucks, going around this 5-acre property, circling the house, all of them at the same time, 2 o'clock in the morning, cops everywhere, you couldn't get them out. Took 30 days to get rid of that scum.
Yeah, and there's a process, and it's supposed to protect tenants, and it's also supposed to protect landlords in some situations. But
you can do a lot of damage in 30 days.
Oh boy, howdy! That house is.
Yeah, it only takes a few hours.
Yeah,
really.
It's boarded up now. It is just ruined.
It only takes a few hours.
Yeah.
Hey, this is Valley Talk. Rex Watkins, Northwest Investment Management, in the studios with us today. If you'd like to be involved in the conversation, send me an email, dave@kgal.com. That's also the same entry for you to enter into the drawing for Quiznos Taste on Us. Or you can call the station at 926-KGAL or 451-KGAL. We're going to take a break right now and be right back.
The Osgood File, sponsored in part by 1-800-Flowers.com. Make someone smile today with 1-800-Flowers Smile Guarantee. In a moment, a special offer for you. This is Charles Osgood. Yes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus. Our CBS News colleague Steve Hartman found him recently in New York City's borough of Staten Island. You don't believe me? Well, give me 60 seconds and I'll prove it. Christmas will be here before you know it. So now's the time to send something special to the special people in your life. Share the holiday spirit with family and friends and send them the traditional Christmas centerpiece from 1-800-Flowers.com. I've just received this gorgeous centerpiece. It's full of fresh roses, lilies, carnations, and Christmas greens, topped off with a decorative candle, all hand-arranged by a local florist. Brighten anyone's holiday table and deliver smiles all around by sending them the centerpiece from 1-800-Flowers.com. Santa would approve that. For a limited time, 1-800-Flowers.com has a special offer since you listen to the Osgood File. Order the traditional Christmas centerpiece and get a free upgrade to a larger centerpiece that's more flowers for free, starting at just $29.99, available for same-day delivery. For this and other holiday arrangements, go to 1-800-Flowers.com from your desktop or your mobile device. At the top of the page, click on the radio microphone and enter my last name, Osgood, O-S-G-O-O-D. That's 1-800-Flowers.com and enter Osgood, or you can call 1-800-Flowers and mention Osgood. Staten Island was hard hit by Hurricane Sandy several weeks before Christmas. Steve Hartman found the woman there whose home was destroyed, and she was not feeling at all Christmassy.
Even though she has a 3-year-old, Janice Kennedy told us she had no interest in celebrating Christmas this year.
How am I going to do that? I don't have anything left.
She hated that they were even selling Christmas trees in her neighborhood.
When you feel that way, nobody seems any good. But who, to such wondering eyes, should appear?
I'm Secret Santa.
His real name, I can't tell you. All I can say is that he's a wealthy businessman from Missouri, who every December goes to the cities and towns in America he thinks need him most.
Merry Christmas to you, sweetie.
He then gives away $100 bills, about $100,000 worth of $100 bills, all to random strangers he finds in thrift stores, laundromats,
Merry Christmas,
and soup kitchens. A lot of these people have never even seen a $100 bill, let alone possess one. Yet clearly, the joy they feel goes a lot deeper than the dollar amount.
Now, it's not just the money we're talking about, it's
hope. That's really what he doles out.
Just when all seems so hopeless, it's hope that's the remedy. And the next voice he heard was of one Janice Kennedy.
We lost our whole house.
You lost your whole house?
He gave Janice $300 and a brand new attitude.
They're going to have a nice Christmas.
It just changed everything. And I thought of, we'll get the tree. And I got happy. For some reason, I had a smile on my face all night.
Even Steve Hartman's heart grew 3 sizes that night.
Looks like Christmas is back on the calendar.
The Osgood File. Charles Osgood on the CBS Radio Network.
December 31st is coming, and if you have dental insurance, please don't lose your benefits with the coming of another year. Dr. Dennis Clark sees many of his patients miss out on important treatments, so now is the time to schedule an appointment by calling 451-1440. Dr. Clark has been gently caring for Mid-Valley patients for over 25 years. And whether you have dental insurance or not, now is the time to make an appointment before the holiday season is booked.
Hello, this is Dr. Dennis Clark. We do offer a full range of services: smile makeovers, oral surgery, and Invisalign wireless braces.
In addition, if you suffer from bleeding gums, loose teeth, or bad breath, Dr. Clark can help with gently applied laser light. His skillful use of laser periodontal therapy will dramatically help as you notice the healing of bleeding gums, loose teeth tightening, and the bone growing back. For a free consultation about the no-cut, no-sew, no-fear solution for infected gums, call the Laser Dentist. In Lebanon, call 451-1440 or toll free at 866-351-5453.
This Christmas, Bi-Mart has big savings on the name brands you want. Enjoy an LG 47-inch class high-definition LED TV. You'll save over $150. It's just $548.88. Wrap up a great buy on Wrangler men's jeans. Get regular fit 5-pocket jeans for only $14.88 a pair. Find Folgers coffee in regular or decaf for just $7.99 each. Find big savings on these and other items now through December 15th at your neighborhood Bi-Mart. Just right for Christmas.
You can call us Lefty or you can call us Righty. We just call it Smarty Talk on 1580 KGAL.
This is Valley Talk and KGAL. I'm Dave Adams. Rex Watkins is in the studios with us today, Northwest Investment Management, and thank you for being with us today. We've been giving tips to rental property owners and what they could watch out for, and one of the things that biggest mistake you say rental property owners make is for whatever personal reason not following the fair housing law and saying, this is my property. Let's say there are a lot of people who do not agree with the current administration. We have a guy in the studio right now that does not agree with a lot of things that goes on with the Obama administration. And so some people are saying, you know what, this is America. This is my country, and the federal government isn't going to tell me what to do with my property. They can just go jump off the couch, so to speak.
At least you didn't say go down the drain.
Yeah, there you go. I fought the urge.
Thank you.
But what are the fines for something like that? If the
$10,000 for the first instance.
It's significant.
Yeah, it is significant.
And you have to be so very careful because you had the key word when you were talking about that. I feel that I've been discriminated against.
Yeah.
That's all they have to say.
That's all it starts to claim. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that the prospective tenant taking that to Housing and Urban Development and making the or Oregon Fair Housing and making the complaint. They'll do an investigation, and a lot of times the investigation will involve somebody else very similar to the complainant coming out and testing you. You don't know you're being tested.
It's kind of undercover.
It is absolutely undercover. Yep.
So let's say a young couple, let's say young kids, 2 young kids came, and I don't like young kids. They cause too much trouble, drinking and partying and so on and so forth. And they make a big excuse. They file a claim. So what can happen is some other young kids can come undercover to investigate.
Yeah, they'll want to see the property. They'll want to see if they can get an application, whatever, through the process, and they'll take it to the point where you do the same thing you did the last time, and at that point you'll discover that you're. And they might tell you while they're doing the test, but you'll get a really nice letter letting you know that you're in violation and that you're going to come to a hearing and the fine is going to be X. Yeah.
Do you have an appeal process, or is it basically you're done?
You can get an attorney. I would recommend one.
So on top of the $10,000 fine, now you have an attorney's fees.
Absolutely, and you probably at that point you probably ought to realize, you know what, I don't have the personality for this, and I need to. If I like the income from rentals, I probably need to hire somebody else to take care of it for me, or if I don't want to, some people get so frustrated they don't want to deal with it all and they just sell.
Exactly.
And that's too bad because I think real estate. It's a good place to have some money. I don't think you should put all of it in real estate, but I think it's a good place to have some money. You can still have criteria for wanting to rent. You can say your income, my rent for this house is $1,000, and on this particular house, in order to rent it, your income needs to be, and you can decide whether that's going to be net or gross, needs to be X. You can decide whether or not you're going to take into account everything else that they owe money on, how much their payments are for other stuff.
But that's not discrimination.
No, that's not.
Okay.
You can decide, and in some places you can't discriminate based on the source of their income. There are a few counties and municipalities in Oregon that if you can't exclude welfare, insurance, HUD, whatever. Those are considered sources of income, and you have to look at them.
Let's pose a scenario here. Let's say there's a young guy drives up in an Escalade, brand new, shiny wheels, the whole thing. Dressed to the nines, jewelry, doesn't have a job, but pulls out, wads of cash. Red flags all over the place.
Absolutely,
here.
There's a lot of red flags there.
And so the property owner's thinking, I don't want this to be a meth or house of ill repute or whatever. What can they do? Can they say, hey, I'm concerned here?
Their best thing is to be prepared up front, and to say, like when we give a prospect an application form, it's a written application form. They're going to have to fill it out. And on the front of it is our criteria, how we process it, what we're looking for, and what we're going to do to verify the information. And if they can't comply with that, then the application is denied.
So in this case, we needed a source of employment. Where do you make your money?
Well, you don't need a source of employment, you need a source of income. And that may be a bank account. But if the guy has a wad of cash, it's likely that he doesn't have a bank account.
Right.
There's no way to independently verify it other than the big bunch of bills he has in his hand. We just don't go down that path. And for a lot of owners, their temptation is, I need to get this rented. And somebody comes along, they're dressed nice, they have a nice car, they seem to have a lot of money, they've got a reasonable story, you rent to them, and then you go by 2 months later because you didn't get the second or third month's rent, and there's dilapidated cars out front, and all kinds of the neighbors see you, and they come out and they're just chewing your head off because they know you own the property, and they got all kinds of people going in and out, and you realize, wow, I really should have done some background checking with current and previous landlords. Huge. Do not avoid those phone calls.
At that point, what can they do?
They can do eviction notice.
Yeah. They can give
takes 30 days at least.
They can, if they haven't paid the rent, the best way is to do a non-payment of rent notice, which is 72 hours or get out.
Let's say they have paid the rent, but
they have paid the rent, but they're not in compliance with the rental agreement. So you send them a letter. It's a 30-day for-cause notice. It gives them 14 days to correct the problems, or they have to be out in 30. Now, if you give them one of those and they correct all the problems, and then 6 months later you come back and the problems are back, you can, it's 24 hours.
Okay. We need to take one more break here on Valley Talk. Rex Watkins, Northwest Investment Management, on the show today, and we'll be right back on Valley Talk.
Beaver Nation, this is Oregon State basketball coach Craig Robinson.
Now screens for Mott, it comes around it in deep, pump fake, ball away, 6-footer, go!
Basketball season is in full force. Do you have your tickets?
Knocked away by Collier. Stefan is ahead of the pack for the basket. Slam dunk!
Purchase your single game tickets today at beavertickets.com. This is Beaver Nation.
There's a new way to save on next year's straw harvest, and you'll find it now at Lynn Benton Tractor. It's called the Big Pack 1290, and it's Krohn's latest large square baler with a high-density press that increases the weight of each bale by 25%. That means fewer bales per acre, faster baling, and lower production and storage costs. For bales like bricks, see the Big Pack 1290 HTP by Krohn, now at Lynn Benton Tractor.
Lynn Benton Tractor, we're still doing business the American way.
The Home Depot Project Loan is a simple way to put big projects within reach. You not only get no payments and no interest for 6 months, you also get the flexibility of paying it off anytime. So whether it's new flooring or a whole new kitchen, the Project Loan makes it easy, and we make it possible. Get started now. More saving, more doing. That's the power of the Home Depot. U.S. only, subject to credit approval. Terms and conditions apply. See store for details.
Because Susan switched to Geico and saved hundreds of dollars on car insurance, her retirement account wants to bake her a chocolate cake. But it can't. It's a retirement account. It doesn't have the upper body strength to lift a cake pan into an oven. Switch to Geico, and every time you see the savings, you'll know your retirement account wants to bake you a chocolate cake. But remember, it can't. It's a retirement account. It is, however, happy that you're saving money.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
This
This is an astounding story of courage and endurance, unparalleled in the history of shipwrecks.
Now showing at Carmike 12.
No! Go away!
Based on the beloved bestseller, Two Unlikely Castaways.
You have to trust me.
One incredible journey home. From Academy Award-winning director Ang Lee, Life of Pi.
Now showing at Carmike 12.
In 3D.
The United States has been invaded.
What am I supposed to do? I'm gonna fight.
Now showing at Carmike 12. Red Dawn.
When you're fighting in your own backyard, you're fighting for your family. For them, this is just some place. For us, this is our home.
Now showing at Carmike 12.
Red Dawn. Rated PG-13.
From PCs to the internet, Kim Commando has the answers. Saturday mornings on News Talk 1580 KGAL.
And here we are, Valley Talk, and we have Rex Watkins, Northwest Investment Management, with us on the show today, and John Gibson, Average Investment Guy. John, what's going on in the stock market, Wall Street? I know they're still wrangling about the fix, so to speak. Hopefully they can fix it, but jury's still out.
Well, there's all sorts of little speculations out there that they'll cut some deductions and raise the top rates to 37% versus 39%, all this kind of stuff. Bottom line is that the market is right now is playing on short-term news. Okay, we had there's 3 million available jobs out there. We're going to find out tomorrow or Thursday what the initial claims are. But there's a little good news on jobs, so the market's up today. But it could be down tomorrow on bad news. So until the fix is announced or December 31st gets here, the market probably won't react too much. If it looks like it's going to get fixed, it'll be fine. If it looks like it's just not going to get fixed at all, we could go down 500-600 points. Personally, I'm taking money off the table. I've sold all of my Pepsi. I've sold all of my Taser. I'm getting out of Intel, Microsoft, Google. I'm going to cash for this one reason. I know I'll have to pay 15% on any capital gains now. I might get that same option next year. It depends on the fix. I can always get back in. The problem is I'm giving up my cost basis. I was in a Pepsi at 18. I sold it at 72. I didn't want to give up that cost basis, but because of taxation, I don't know what to do other than to be safe. It sounds to me, without being personal, Rex, you have the same sort of feelings.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I do.
So I think what you're going to see is a lot of tax loss selling right now, and you're going to see more selling of people just going to cash and just going, you know what? I still got the cash, you know, and I can always get back in. Mm-hmm. But it's a scary time on Wall Street. And I'm sorry, but Mr. Obama just is not engaged. I mean, you have to be there. I remember Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill, you know, spending evenings together, probably having a glass of whiskey, you know, but they got things done. Clinton and Newt Gingrich, you know, spent time together getting things done. Okay. It's not happening now.
We need to give the last word to Rex Watkins, Northwest Investment Management. You've got about 40 seconds here. Why do I do business with Northwest Investment Management? What do you bring to the table?
Well, a lot of experience. Been in the property management business, licensed since 1987. Worked for a couple years in Portland for a commercial firm and then started my own business in 1989. And we grew from sole proprietorship into a corporation. We manage we have a lot of our own investments here in town, and we manage everything. We take care of it the same way. If our criteria is if it's not good enough for us to live in, we're not going to rent it out.
What's your phone number?
541-928-6257. They can also find us on the web at www.midvalleyrentals.com, or they can Google Northwest Investment Management, and it'll pop up the website.
And there's probably somebody with a pen.
All right, we got to cut it short here, and tomorrow we're going to be here from live from Portland at the Veterans Homeless Shelter with Victor Coons on Vet Talk here on KGAL. I'm Dave Adams. You make it a great day.
Your first choice in local news, sports, and smart talk. This is News Talk 1580 KGAL, Lebanon, Albany, Corvallis.